welcome to Cooking Fresh Pasta. I hope you all are ready to cook along live with me. If you got some flour, you need some eggs. I've got some Parmesan cheese, I've got some butter, and we're gonna have some pasta water in order to make the Alfredo sauce. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started if that's okay with you. I am gonna be looking over from time to time. I have a monitor over here. I can see all of your comments in the chat, so I will be trying to respond to them as best I can. But let's get started. So I'm going to be doing all of this by hand. You can definitely do it in a food processor or a mixer and blitz the flour together real quick to make your dough, but I'm going to show you how to do it if you don't have anything. I'm going to be using a rolling pin. You can also use a bottle of wine if it's got a flat side. Anything that is round and has a flat edge that you can roll your dough out with. We're going to start actually with our eggs. So I'm going to take this. You don't have to measure anything out, but I am because it makes it a little bit easier when you're presenting. A little bit less kind of going back and forth to make sure you have the right ratio. But essentially what you want is by weight, you want 2 eggs to 3 parts flour. So what I'm actually going to do is put 1 whole egg in, and then I'm going to use 2 egg yolks. This is going to be for about 2 people. 1 yolk, 2 yolks. How's everybody doing today? Another great week of socially distancing. Hopefully everything went well this week. How's the audio? Is my voice too loud or too soft? Last week it was a bit too soft, so I did some adjusting. And hopefully this week it actually comes through a little bit louder. I can't monitor myself while I'm doing these, so I just have to kind of assume that it's working. So if anything cuts out or whatever, just let me know in chat. I'll be happy to hop on and fix it. So we've got 3 eggs in here. Well, 1 egg and 2 yolks, and it's 86.84 grams. So what I'm actually going to do is open up a calculator real quick. I'm going to do 84. I'm going to round up to, I'm sorry, it's 86. I'm going to round up to 87, multiply that by 1.5, 130.5. So what I want is 130 grams of flour. And I'm just using King Arthur all-purpose. Any all-purpose should work. Again, I said right when I started the video, if you have 00 flour, tipo flour, that works the best. It gets you the smoothest pasta. But I'm going to put in about 130 grams of flour. There we go, 130. I'm going to keep that available just in case I need a little bit extra. But as far as this goes, we should be good. Turn off my scale, get it out of the way. Now I've got a little bit of egg goober on my counter. I'm going to wipe that off. And get my mouse off of my work surface. Very cool. So we're going to pour our flour out on our work surface here. Take a sip of wine, very important. Any kind of wine will do, red wine, white wine, rosé if you have to. Yum, yum. Hey, Bentley, what's up, man? Glad you could join us. I'm using kosher salt, and I'm going to put a couple of pinches, which usually ends up being about a teaspoon for me. Just right into the top of the flour there. Hey, Phil, what's up, man? Long time no see. Phil and I used to work together. Him and his wife run a company called Shipment Creative. You guys are still doing that, right? And they do design for product management. So him and I worked together when I was doing website development. One of my best clients. Awesome couple. Fantastic couple. They live in New York. I hope you guys are doing okay over there because I know that that area has been affected pretty bad. So hopefully you all are doing okay. So I'm going to take my 2 yolks and 1 full egg, and I'm actually going to give them a little bit of a mix here. And this just makes it so that you don't have to mix it when it's in the flour. You're not trying to really beat them together all that much. You just want them to come together. It's about good. Just going to pour this right into the middle of the well. Very cool. Now all you're going to do is start swirling this around, and what's going to end up happening is some of the flour from the sides is going to kind of start mixing with the eggs. And this is great because it's going to start thickening the egg mixture. You can do the same thing with water if you want. Your pasta will just be really bland and kind of gross. So eggs give it a lot of flavor and kind of a little bit of body as well. So you can start going a little bit faster when you get a little bit more comfortable with it. And then as you're spinning it around, you just kind of want to brush the edges with the fork and pull in just a little bit more flour every time you go around. And then mix it. If you see any big clumps of flour forming in the egg mixture, that's fine. Just go ahead and break them up. We're going to go again, mix in just a little bit more flour. This is pretty much the essence of this. As you're mixing it around, you're actually going to start pushing the well wider and wider. If you're careful, you won't break one of the walls down. If you go a little too fast, you might knock down a wall. But that's okay, because then you can just chase the egg all over the counter. Makes it a lot of fun. We're just going to keep doing this until this thickens up to the point where you can just start folding the flour in. And I say fold the flour in because you don't want to start mixing the flour in. What you're doing here is creating gluten chains, and if you're gluten sensitive, this might not be the best dish for you because it does have gluten. But if you push down too hard, you're going to start tearing those gluten chains, and you're going to come out with a really rough pasta. So this stirring is just mixing things in, you're just incorporating. You're not trying to knead at this point. You're just getting things mixed in. And you'll notice that my egg mixture is getting super thick. And this is awesome because now at this point, if I break down one of these walls, I don't have to worry about the egg mixture going anywhere. It's pretty much going to stay put. So I'm just going to keep mixing. We're just going to get this thickened up even more. I'm just using all-purpose flour, Scott. Regular old all-purpose flour, King Arthur. Just make sure it's fresh. I've done this with flour that's been out of date, and it does not mix together nearly as easily. You can also use, they have a flour, it's either called pasta flour, or you'll find 00 flour, and that's on the front of the bag. You can also order it from Amazon. That's a very, very fine powdered flour, and it works a lot better for pasta, but I'm doing all-purpose to demonstrate that all-purpose works just fine. So if you can't find the 00 flour, don't worry about it. So see, at this point, it's kind of becoming a goo, and this is great. Because now I can just start kind of folding my flour into the egg mixture. And I'm not really mixing anymore, and I'm not really kneading it all that hard. I'm just picking up from the corner, up and into the middle, up into the middle. And I'm picking up flour and egg, up into the middle. And we really haven't started the kneading process yet. This is just getting things mixed and incorporated. And it's going to stick to the fork, and that's fine. Don't worry about it. You don't want the fork to be clean. Fine if the fork is dirty. There is going to be a point where this no longer wants to allow the fork to kind of mix it, and then you're going to switch over to our hands. Nice, Campbell. Good to hear, Philip. I'm glad you guys are doing okay. I know that shelter in place is not fun. We've been doing that for, I guess, about 2 weeks now. And it's not all that great. So here you can see that my dough mixture is pretty shaggy. And it's getting to the point where I can actually almost kind of cut it with my fork. It's holding its form, it's holding its shape. So now is when we're going to actually start kneading it with our hands. I'm actually going to clean off the last of the egg from the fork. That. If you have a bench scraper, like this one right here, once it kind of gooped up into that slime, you can actually just start folding it like this. The bench scraper is actually really, really good at not sticking to the flour for some reason, or not sticking to the egg, and it's because you're scooping flour up onto it before you fold it onto itself. This is a really nice, gentle way to do it as well. You can actually use it to kind of knead if you want as well. Now, as far as your kneading, you're not trying to smash the flour down into the work surface. You're really still just incorporating the flour into the dough. You just want to kind of be gentle. You basically want to turn it a quarter turn up and into the center. quarter turn up into the center, quarter turn up into the center. And that's the same motion that you're going to be using once you switch over to your hands, which I'm about to do. I'm going to set you there, get my hand nice and floury, get my other hand nice and floury. Actually going to move the dough for now, get this kind of spread out. I'm going to find the stickiest part of my work surface, which is right here in the middle. Put my dough right there, a little bit of extra flour. Work off as much of the dough from my fingers as I can right onto this dough that's sitting in the middle. And now it's really just about being very gentle. It's almost like you're giving a little bit of a massage to your dough. Now you want to knead this for about 10 minutes, but you're doing it gently, so this is not going to tear your arm off. You can be very, very weak, like me, and you can still just kind of lightly massage the dough together. That's really all kneading is for here. So right now it's 5:47, so I'm going to be kneading this until about 5:57. And as you're going, what you're going to notice is right now it's super dry. See, you can see the flour on top of it. As you knead it, it's actually going to get really, really wet because all of the moisture from the center is going to work its way out to the outside. The dough is hydrating the flour. And what's going to end up happening is it's going to start sticking to your hand and it's going to start sticking to the work surface. And you can see that it's already doing that. Where the flour on the outside has kind of disappeared, and now it's becoming really, really tacky again. You're just going to work in a little bit more dough on both sides. And then just keep gently kneading. This is all part of the 10-minute process. And again, you're not trying to smash it. It's not like you're making bread. You're not trying to like work the dough. You're really just kind of giving it a nice light massage. Treat your pasta well, and your pasta will treat you well. You'll notice that I'm not really even folding it over on itself. I'm just picking it up so that now I have a bulky part, and then I'm kind of squishing the bulky part out, picking it up so that now I have a bulky part, squishing the bulky part out. All you're really doing, again, is just developing gluten. You're developing the chains between the flour molecules so that they stick together and become stretchy. So I'm going to go ahead and get more flour on this. You'll also notice, as I keep going, this middle section here with all of the egg that's kind of dried, or at least stuck to the work surface, it's going to start coming up as well. Because as this gets hydrated, it's going to start pulling it up into itself. And I'm not too concerned about it sticking together, like I've got it kind of coming apart there, it's fine. Just keep kneading. It will all work out in the end. We've been kneading for 2 minutes now. We're just going to keep going. Hey Laura, what's up? Were you able to link all your friends over to the live cooking thing? For some reason, this is creating new events, I think, when I go live. And it's supposed to be going live with my event that I actually created. So if for some reason that's not working, I'm still going to try and figure out why that is the case. So the sad thing about having to knead for 10 minutes is that you can't drink wine while you're doing it, unless you're very creative. So if you get really good at kneading with one hand, like this, where you can kind of pick up the dough with your front fingers, turn it, and then push it down, you can drink wine with the other hand. That's how you stay hydrated yourself while you're trying to hydrate the dough. Now the goal is to get all of this flour worked into this dough mixture, but you just want to kind of do it gradually. You don't want to try and force it, and you don't really want to like squish everything into it. It doesn't work that well. Hey Mom, how's it going? So we're just going to be working the dough for another 7 minutes. And it's just really, again, light massage. We're not pushing it down, we're not squashing it, we're not, slamming this thing into the ground, slamming it into the work surface. We're just kind of slowly kneading it. If you get a little bit tired while doing this, you can always use both hands and just go back and forth. Just like this. All you're doing is kneading out the dough. But I usually just stick with one hand. Hey Jonathan, thanks man. Hey Pock, does it still say Half-Life 3 on Facebook? Yeah, that makes sense. Steve, we're doing fresh pasta, man. Christine. Oh yes, definitely. If you have a husband or wife, if you have them knead, you can definitely drink as much as you'd like. You can also tag team this. You can definitely like switch off. Thanks, Philip. I really like teaching. It's part of why I love being in real estate. I do a lot of teaching at our market center. I teach new agents how to use our technology, strangely enough. And it's a great, great avenue for me to be able to impart knowledge on people. I just figured this would be a lot of fun given all of the coronavirus stuff and shelter at home things. This is kind of like cooking in my kitchen with a bunch of people, except y'all are just a camera and a chat room, but at least you guys get to see all of this. Hey, Jessica, good to see you. We got about another 5 minutes on this dough, and it's still getting tacky. I'm just gonna dust it again with some more flour. It's really, really hard to over dry this with the ratio of flour and egg that we've got. Using that 2 eggs by weight to 3 parts flour, basically taking the weight of your eggs and multiplying it by 1.5 will get you the right weight for your flour. You're incorporating as much as you need to, and this will definitely hydrate itself back up as you're kneading it. Awesome, Michael. Yeah. How old is Bentley? I have not. I love to fly. I don't see why you would want to jump out of a perfectly good airplane. Although I do want to go skydiving, so that's kind of a line. But it would be fun. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Another 4 minutes on the kneading, and this is just when you have a good conversation with your people, right? If you have people coming over for fresh pasta, this is the same dough that we're going to use. We're going to make Fettuccine Alfredo today, but you can make tortellini or ravioli or anything, same exact dough. You just roll it out a little thinner. So if you have people coming over and you got some filling going, maybe your significant other is making a nice spinach cheese filling or something of that sort, great time to have conversation. You're just relaxing, chilling, getting your dough ready. And this is super impressive. Super easy for people who don't know any better. They think that you're doing a lot of work. And you're just like, yeah, this is really difficult. So hard. I don't know how anybody could do this. Oh, no. Hey, Chase, I'm making pasta. Doing fresh pasta, Fettuccine Alfredo. Awesome, Michael. If you guys ever come out to Bay Area, I'm happy to take you and him flying. That is an artichoke. Yes, that's going to be part of my dinner. I'll show you guys how to clean that as well once we're done making the pasta here. And really, the pasta is done at this point. Like, I could take this and let it rest. I'm just kneading it out to get more gluten in. Now, if you just want to make fettuccine alfredo and don't want to make your own pasta, that's fine. The store-bought dry pasta is also a great way to go. The fettuccine alfredo that we're making, it's a traditional sauce, so no cream. It's just butter, Parmesan cheese, and a little bit of the pasta water. So super simple. So Michael, when you're kneading the dough, or Michael's daughter, you didn't tell me her name, but when you're kneading out the dough, what you're doing is you're making it stretchy. And I'm going to show you that in just a second. You need the dough to be stretchy so that when you cut it up, it's got a little bit of elasticity. So when you bite into it, it feels like pasta. That's part of what you're doing. That's what the gluten does. Gluten is it makes it a little bit chewy, a little bit rubbery, a little bit tight. So it adds texture to the food, not very much flavor. Mostly just texture. Excuse me. We've been having a lot of virtual happy hours at work, so clearing my throat a little bit more than normal. So Bryn? I've actually got a friend who goes by the name of Silver Bryn. Not spelled like that, but we call him Bryn for short, B-R-I-N. So if that's how you pronounce it, that's a really cool name. I like it. Awesome. Love it, man. So we got about another 30 seconds, I would say, for kneading. And I'll show you the next step in this. If you're cooking along live with me, this is awesome. We're going to actually take this pasta and let it rest for a little while, so you can just grab a drink. And I'm going to keep going because I have a prepared version of pasta ready to go that I did a little bit before the video that I've had resting. You don't have to let it rest very long, just 30 minutes. If you can let it rest a little longer, that's also a good thing. But it doesn't really change that much. It just makes it easier to roll it out. All right, 5:57. So what I'm going to do is actually move all of the extra flour over here. Bench scraper to scrape off my work surface. Keep it clean. I'm going to knead this out just until the outside is not powdery anymore. And then I'll show you what I mean by developing the elasticity of the dough. Awesome, Mom, that makes sense. Are you guys doing the dry pasta then? All right, here's this. Our dough ball is ready. I'm just going to kind of flatten it out. And as I'm flattening it out, I'm also kind of turning it into a little bit of a shell, a little bit of a hump here. And then there is our ball of dough. Now, if you look at the dough, I'm actually going to come over to the camera. If you look at the dough and you push in on the dough, let me see if I can focus on the dough. There we go. When you push in on the dough, it's going to spring back. Zoop. See how it's coming back? If the dough doesn't come back, if it just stays dimpled, you need to keep kneading. But if I let the dough rest on a work surface, it will actually come all the way back and be a round ball again. So what I'm going to do is kind of make this as best I can into a sphere. I'm going to go grab some cling film real quick. I've got a giant roll that I ordered from Amazon, I don't know, 15 years ago, still haven't gone through it. Michael will appreciate this. It's one of those industrial rolls that you get for restaurants. It's 18 inches wide. Actually, I think it's 24 inches wide. And you just want to make this as airtight as you can. If we tried to roll this out right now, the problem is you've developed all of that gluten and it hasn't had a chance to kind of relax. So that's when you get the dough when you roll it out and then it rolls out and then it shrinks immediately because it hasn't had a chance to rest. So what we're doing here is we're letting it rest. Covering it with cling film, putting the film around it as best we can, trying to squeeze as much air out of it as possible. One method that I like, just kind of using my fingers to go around the outside and squish it in. Squish it down into a point, and then wrap the point. That. And then I've got a ball that's just going to chill at room temperature for half an hour at least, up to 2 hours if you need to. So you can make this well ahead of when people come over if you don't want to be kneading and everything in front of them. And we're done with that. And this dough, you can actually reserve this if you want to use it to dust off your surface. I would put it through a sieve first, or a fine mesh strainer. I'm just going to go ahead and remove it from the work surface for now. All right, what do we want to do now? I've got the reserved dough that I've already kneaded. And you'll notice that this dough, when I push into it, it doesn't spring back as fast. It's had a chance to relax, which is good. That's what you want. It will spring back a little bit, but you don't want it to be like dimple back to flat. It's too springy. And this is actually kind of sticking to the cling film, which is fine. Be as gentle as you can to get it off. And we're actually going to pull out a little bit of this flour. Dust it. We might need to add a little bit more, do a little bit more kneading. But just be gentle with it. And you're going to be very, very surprised. When you knead that dough, it's going to seem very, very dry when you're done. And then after you let it kind of rest, it's going to get super wet again. And that's because the moisture that's left in the dough is going to just permeate more of it. I'm just going to coat the dough with more flour, flatten it out. Hey, Ethan. Yeah, I think it still says Half-Life, doesn't it? I did change the name, but apparently it didn't take, so I'll have to fix that. I don't know how I'm going to fix that because Facebook doesn't give me any kind of a area for me to look at it. In any case, I'm going to take this and actually divide it in half. Best I can, doesn't have to be perfect. Right down the middle there. Cool. And now what I want is one more piece of cling film, which I didn't think about before throwing away the other piece. This one doesn't need to be super big or super tight. It's just to kind of keep this piece from drying out. If you leave pasta out on the countertop, you're going to notice that it develops a little bit of a skin. And what I mean by skin is the outside is going to get super dry, and the inside is going to be still wet. If that happens, it becomes very, very difficult to actually roll out your pasta. So what we're going to do here is just cover it with cling film, just to kind of keep the air off of it, but we're not going to be letting it rest for very long. I'm going to set it out of the way. Cool. So here's this piece of pasta. Going to flatten it out as best we can and grab our trusty roll. Now here's a cool little tip. If you shape this out into as best a rectangle as you can before you start rolling, it's going to pretty much hold that shape. There we go, something like that. Now we're going to take our rolling pin, and we're actually going to do what is called crimping. We're going to put it right on the edge over here and just push down. We're going to come over this edge and push down. And that kind of, I don't want to say seals, but it makes it so that the outer edges aren't going to flatten out into like an oval, or they're going to be a lot less likely to. Now, with light pressure, you're just going to kind of go in and start rolling. You'll notice that this is rolling out pretty easy. And this is super thick pasta still at this point. I'll get it to about there. This is getting a little dry, so what I'm actually going to do is put just a touch of flour to my prep bowl there. Take another drink of wine to stay hydrated. Hey, Chris. Half-Life is a VR game that I've been playing. Actually, a lot of fun. And I was streaming it on Monday afternoon, I think. And so that's why the title is still that. Facebook, for some reason, I have like an event scheduled, and it's set up so that this will stream to that event, but it just created a new event and gave it the old name, so I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I'm going to start kind of rolling it out sideways. I see that this edge here is getting a little bit skinny, so I'm going to start focusing on that side. Just putting a little bit more pressure on those sides to get it rolled out. There we go. Go back this way. Dust off all of the extra flour because I'm going to show you another neat trick. This is kind of ovular, right? Looks like an oval. There's kind of a sharp edge over here and kind of a weird looking edge over here. I'm actually going to fold this edge down, about like that. Fold this edge up to meet it. Scrape off all the extra flour. If you have a brush, this works a lot easier. Then I'm going to fold it in half on top of itself like that. This is much more rectangular. So what I'm going to do with this is push it down, get it to stick to itself. And now when I start rolling it out, it's going to be rolled out almost in a rectangular shape. So see, there you go. Now that I've gotten it rolled out, I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm just letting kind of the rolling pin do the work. And you'll notice I'm not using the rollers on the outside. And these are great once you have a piece of dough that's gigantic and you need equal weight across the whole thing. But if you're just focusing on a small piece of dough, it's best just to kind of keep your hands right over where you're putting the pressure. And then you actually don't have to push down as hard. There we go. Nice squarish piece of dough. Roll it out this way. I'm actually going to add a little bit of flour to the surface because it's getting sticky. A little bit on the outside. Roll it out. Okay. And as far as width of the dough sheet, you're going to want it to be about 6 to 8 inches. And then where you really want to get it is when you get it to the thinness. The length. You want the length is where you're going to get the thinness from. Go. Now if you do have a pasta roller, this goes a lot quicker. I'm just showing you the totally low-tech, old school way of doing it. Really not that much work. It does look like it, but it's not difficult. I'm not sweating. I'm able to drink my wine. I'm having a good time. And this is just a great time to connect with friends and family who might be over. A little bit of a fold there that I'm going to try and work out. There we go. This over. Dusted with flour. So the flour keeps things from sticking. And it's great, unless you want to fold this on itself again. If you start folding it back on itself and it's got a bunch of flour on it, it's not going to adhere. So if you do need to fold it on itself again for whatever reason, you're trying to get it more square or rectangular or whatever, just make sure you dust off all of the extra flour, all the excess flour, before you do that so that it sticks. So I'm getting this pretty long and pretty thin, which is good. It's actually longer than my rolling pin now, so now I can actually use my side handles because now I need the, I don't need, but I would like pressure across the whole rolling pin. Now I'm just trying to get it out to that 8-ish inches. Very cool. And I can almost start seeing my countertop through the dough. So I don't know if you can all see the pattern through the dough yet. But I can see the pattern. I can almost even see my fingers through the dough, like the color of my fingers and everything. And that's about how thin you want it when you're doing fettuccine. If you're doing ravioli or if you're doing tortellini, you actually want to roll this out way thinner because effectively what you're going to do when you sandwich it on top of each other is double the size, double the thickness of the pasta. So you want to get it even thinner than this. There we go. I made this about 20 minutes before I started the live stream. So given that plus the 10 minutes of kneading we did, this has been resting for about 30 minutes. You'll notice that it's pretty easy to roll out, although it is still shrinking slightly. So if you let it rest a little bit longer, like an hour, you won't get any of that shrinkage, for lack of a better term. Move my keyboard there because I need the extra space. And we're just going to keep on rolling this out. What's everybody else doing during the shutdown, during the stay-at-home, shelter-at-home business? You all having fun? You all doing a lot of cooking? Gardening, it's starting to get to spring. I got a bunch of plants outside that are about ready to go in. Hanging on to my mom's plants. She doesn't want me to come over. I understand. She hates me. Just kidding. But I do understand, so what are y'all doing to stay sane? So here we go. Super, super thin pasta. This is exactly what you want. Nice long pasta sheet. Flip it out like this. Drinking, heck yeah, man. Love the PJs too. Yeah, totally. There we go. We're just gonna make sure we don't roll this on top of itself. You don't want to pinch it, but it's pretty easy to fix it. Oops, there I go. Pull it out a little bit. And so I've got probably a 30-inch long sheet of pasta dough here. And I don't know if you can tell, but I can definitely see the pattern of my countertop through the pasta. I'm not sure if that's coming through the camera or not. And I'm not putting too much pressure on. I'm just kind of letting the rolling pin do its own thing. A little bit of light pressure, keeping my hands right over the pasta, because I don't need to use these because I don't want pressure across the whole thing. If I do pressure on the outsides here, that's when you're actually going to be a little bit wobbly if pressure's off on one side over the other. If you keep all of the pressure right over the middle, it's much easier to control what's going on here. So what do you think? Should we make super long pasta or should we do shorter pasta? Am I rich? I am definitely not rich. Not yet. Soon, someday. Oh yeah, definitely. Amazon Prime is awesome. If you're in real estate, the Shift book on Audible, I believe, is free if you want to read that. Excellent resource to dealing with what we're going through in our industry. Not a lot of fun. And you'll notice I keep dusting it with flour anytime I feel like it's getting a little too sticky. You will be amazed if you've never worked with flour before or with dough before, how much of the moisture keeps coming back. Like that cat from the song. Just wouldn't go away. Except instead of waiting until the next day, this is within 5-10 minutes. Kind of annoying. Very cool. Very cool. And I think we're good. I'm going to call that. You're going to be able to roll this out much thinner if you have a pasta machine and with a lot less effort. I'm actually going to show you how that works as well. But I wanted to show you this just to show you that it is easy. And you get a pretty nice long piece of pasta dough. So I'm going to take this. About twice a month. I'm actually going to go grab a knife. Trusty chef's knife. We're just going to cut this in half as best we can. Whoop. I'm going to take this, dust it with a little extra flour, like so. Fold it in half. Actually, I'm not going to fold it in half. What I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it like this, up to the halfway point, so kind of eyeball where that was, maybe about there. I'll roll this down to the halfway point, so about there. And now I'm going to say fettuccine is about 1/4 inch wide. I'm just going to go swoop, like this. Now the cool thing with this is you can actually take your knife, slide it right under the pasta like this, and it unfurls it for you like that. And we've got 1/2 serving of fettuccine. Go, just making sure that they're all separated. Because the last thing you want is for this all to stick together. There's 1/2 serving of fettuccine. I'm going to dust it with even more flour because, again, you don't want it to stick together. If you have semolina flour, this is where you're going to start doing that because it's actually drier. There we go. 1/2 serving of pasta. Now you can actually take these sheets once you've rolled them out, full length sheet, dust it with flour, fold it in on itself, just fold it over on itself, you know, 1, 2, 3, whatever. Take these, freeze them, and they will keep. You can defrost them, and you can just pull this out and go right to cutting your pasta. So that's a quick trick. Definitely a nice sharp knife. My knives are always sharp. You can do the same thing with this. Roll it over like this, about halfway, and we're just going to cut about 1/4 inch pieces. They don't need to be perfect, and you can totally adjust the thickness of the pasta that you want to make. You can make it thicker, you can make it thinner, whatever you want. Same thing, I've got some edges here. They add character to the dish, I like to say. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually sliding my knife so that the back of the knife is staying right where the crease is, right where the seam is here. And then I'm shifting it forward so that it just falls right down the middle. Lift. There you go. So that is 1 serving of pasta. If you're doing it as a side dish, that's 2 servings because you have 2 smaller portions. And you can totally do that with the super long piece if you want, but then you're going to have 36-inch long pasta. Not ideal. Very, very hard to get on a fork. So I like to do about 12 to 18 inches max. Good bit of flour on the pasta. There we go. If you want to dry this and save it for later, you can just pull out a cookie sheet, lay it out straight, or if you have a long wooden dowel or a coat hanger, you can just hang it over that, put it somewhere where a cat's not going to get it, and let it dry. I'm just going to kind of pile it up and let it sit there. So there's 1 serving, and that's for me. At this point, you can take a little taste if you want, just to make sure it's seasoned properly. Tastes good. A little bit salty. You'll know if you don't have enough salt because the pasta just tastes bland. It tastes like flour. But if you got enough salt in there, again, about a teaspoon per 3 eggs, 3-ish eggs, you should be good. So now what I'm going to do, real quickly, is show you how ye old pasta maker handles this. This is a pasta maker I got, I don't know, 7-ish years ago. Love it. It's an Atlas 150. I think you can get them for about 50 bucks. Probably find them for cheap. And what we're going to do is we're going to put this to the whitest setting. So on mine it's 0. And what you want to do is add a little bit of flour to the roller. Just kind of give it a quick whirl. And that gets it dusted. And we're going to take the other half of our pasta here. And mine was a little bit floured, so it didn't stick together, which is great, because I'm going to get this kind of out and make it about 1/4 inch thick. And I only want to make this about 4 inches wide, because as this presses it down, it's actually going to get wider and longer. And we're going to see how much longer we get this sheet versus the sheet that we rolled out by hand. Also, these noodles are fairly thin, but they're still pretty thick for pasta. This is going to get them super thin. We're going to roll this through. And you're going to want to do this a couple of times. Again, the pasta is still going to relax a little bit, which means it's going to be a little bit elastic and kind of squish back down on itself. So you're going to want to do this a couple times just to make sure that it's squished down properly. Very cool. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do that little parcel trick here where we fold it in half, and then do another half. Now what I'm going to do with this, I'm actually going to turn it 90 degrees and put it through this way. There we go. Nice, more rectangular sheet of pasta. And it's totally okay if these sheets aren't perfectly rectangular. Michael, you can definitely make 98 portions of this if you'd like. Take you a while. Cool, so I'm happy with this. So what I'm gonna do is drop it down one notch, and you're just going down one notch at a time. Same thing, you want to kind of feel it to see how tacky it's getting, how wet it's getting. If it gets too tacky or too wet, you definitely want to flour it down more because you don't want it sticking to the rollers. That's when the pasta starts to tear. And then the skinnier you go, the less times you're going to have to roll it through the machine. You can get these on Amazon, Laura. You can get these on Amazon or Sur La Table, or any of those places will carry it. I think Amazon's probably your best bet. It'll be the cheapest. You can also get them from Bed Bath & Beyond if you want to do... KitchenAid makes a version that connects to their mixers. So if you have a KitchenAid mixer, you can get that, and then you don't have to worry about cranking. You can focus on just feeding and, you know, moving the pasta out of the way. And then the KitchenAid just kind of goes, which is nice. So I want to get this down to about a 6. So I started on 0. I'm going to go down to about 6. And that's about where I want to be for fettuccine or tagliatelle. You'll notice that this is getting really thin real quick and quite long, which is great. And I'm on 3 right now, so let's go down to 4. Shoop, shoop, shoop. And you'll notice that already I think we're longer than what the pasta was that we rolled out by hand. I am not Italian, I am Armenian. I just like food. Chris, are you just frozen on video or audio? Is anybody else having any issues, or is it just Chris? I'm assuming you can hear and just the video froze. Looks like on my end everything's working fine, so let me know if there are any issues. Unfortunately, I can't watch the stream while I'm streaming, so. Go down to 5. And you'll notice this isn't quite as wide as the other one that we rolled out by hand, but since it's going to be so much longer, we can actually cut it into thirds instead of just in half. And we're going to get about the same amount of pasta. You'll notice this pasta is getting very, very long. When you're holding the pasta, you're not grabbing it, you're just kind of layering it over your hand. If you pinch it, you'll actually kind of start fusing it together, which doesn't work very well when you're trying to make a nice, long, tender noodle. So really just open hands the whole time and just kind of, almost like you're folding a towel, right? Go down to 6. Go. And as you're holding it up like this, the pasta is actually going to stretch a little bit on its own. You're going to feel it. Kind of a cool feeling. Here's the thinness that we wanted, right about 6. Do about half of it and kind of pull it out like this. This is almost double the length of what we were able to roll out ourselves. Now, a real cool trick that you can do if you want to do a stuffed pasta noodle You can roll it down another couple of notches, cut it in half. Let me actually explain it a little bit better. So if we're able to cut this in half, right? Let's say that we rolled this down 2 more thinnesses, and we cut it in half, and then we lay a couple of basil leaves on top, or truffles, or something. And then we take the second piece that we've cut and layer it over, and then put it through the roller a couple more times. You've got layered pasta. It's a really cool trick. So if you want to do something super fancy, or at least it looks super fancy, super easy to do. Do this one more time. Half of it over here. Just go. Shoop, shoop, shoop. Very cool. Got a super long, super thin piece of pasta here, sheet of pasta here. And I think I'm going to test my luck and go one more. I'm going to go down to 7. So if I'm making ravioli or tortellini, 7, I mean, look at how much longer this is than the last one that we rolled out ourselves. Very, very cool. These machines are pretty epic. Go. Might be just a touch too thin for what we want. But YOLO! Get it here. I can actually see the logo of the pasta roller through the pasta, which is pretty impressive. That'll work. That's okay. We'll flatten it out a little bit once it comes through. And you got to get used to rolling with your offhand. I'm rolling this with my left hand. I'm right-handed, so this gets a little bit annoying. Takes a little bit of getting used to. But from this point, you can do it the same way that you did over there. You can totally like roll it up and then cut it with a knife if you'd like. Most pasta rollers come with kits that have these cutting attachments on the end. Look at how much pasta we have over here. Incredible. So how do I want to cut this? I'm going to do it this way. You guys can all see that? Yes, let me move my wine. Cool. We got the pasta over on this side. I'm actually going to dust my knife a little bit so it doesn't stick. I'm going to kind of eyeball how long I want it. And it seems a bit short, so I think what I'm going to do is out a little bit long. Say up there. That's good. What I'm going to do is dust this down on the top. Don't stick. And just up. Dust this down so it doesn't stick. This guy over like this. And this is it. You got 2 servings of pasta. Actually, probably 3 servings since we were able to roll it down so thin with the roller on this second sheet. We'll just go about here. Swoop. Get this dusted. So we're getting 4 sheets, 5 sheets probably when we're done out of the pasta roller pasta versus the 2 sheets that we got out of the hand rolled. And you just can't compete for thinness with one of these things. It's, 2 wheels that are just pressed up right next to each other. Be very gentle if you are pulling apart pinches because you don't want the pasta to tear, which it can. I'm just going to go ahead and try and flatten out this whole sheet. This end might be too far gone. We're just going to say, oops, sorry. And that's because I probably should have dusted it before that last run through. squeezed a little bit too much moisture out, and the pasta on the end stuck together. But this is very much like Bob Ross, right? You're doing a painting, it's kind of art, so you don't have mistakes, you just have happy little accidents. Very cool. We'll do it about there. I'm gonna dust this last piece. So, both sides. Very cool. Now, even when you're using a machine to cut your pasta, or when you're using a knife, I should have kind of let this rest and sit for a bit, but since we're doing this live, I didn't want to waste a bunch of time, so I went ahead and cut it immediately. I am going to let this sheet pasta rest and dry just a little bit while I prepare my artichoke. Go. Michael, I fly Cessnas, so he's going to go up in a small Cessna 172. He can take a look at that. There's a lot of actually flight simulators if he wanted to go and see if he can fly one himself. And that's what we'll go up over. We'll fly over the Golden Gate Bridge. We'll fly over Alcatraz. It's a lot of fun. One of my favorite things to do with people who come over to visit me. Yeah, Amanda, this ends up being quite a bit of pasta. And that's just 1 egg, 2 egg yolks, and I think it was 131, 130 something grams of flour, so not very many ingredients. I'm going to let these kind of dry out over here for just a second. It's best while you're letting them dry out if you don't stack them on top of each other because they tend to hold moisture. Let me see if I can work this out that way. That works. Cool. Now we're done with the pasta machine. Pro tip, don't store your knife on top of the pasta machine lest you forget that it's there when you go to move the pasta machine. Not that I've ever done that. Get that out of the way. And get a cutting board out. Pro tip for the cutting board. If you do not want your cutting board sliding all over the work surface, get a paper towel or get one of those cabinet liners that's got the sticky bottom. If you just get a damp paper towel or a damp real towel, put it underneath. This is solid. It's not going anywhere. All good. We'll dust off some of this flour that's on top. This is still not sticking, which is good. You want to flip it and kind of like turn it a couple times just to make sure that you don't have any clumps forming. Because again, if the moisture's kind of coming out of that and it's clumping together, once it actually adheres, it's very difficult to get it to kind of come apart. Artichoke time. Who loves artichokes? I love artichokes. Best way to clean an artichoke, put it into a big bowl and let it kind of sit. Any insects that might be in there, if you have fresh grown artichokes, will pop out. And then what you want to do is leave about 1 inch on the bottom here. Cut that off. You can actually use this for stock, if that's what you're doing, veggie stock or whatever. And then I just pinch off these small leaves. Kind of pop them off like that. Now, what I don't have right now, but I do have outside, but I'm not going to take the time to go get, is a little bit of lemon. Actually, nope, no lemon. Okay. But I do have some outside on my tree. But if you put a little bit of, if you have a half a lemon or something like an old lemon and you just kind of rub it on here, it keeps it from browning. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up about 1 or 2 rows of leaves. I'm going to go up about 1.5. We're just going to cut right through that. Like so. And I never used to do this until I did it once, and then I never have gone back to not doing this. But we're going to clip off all of these little pokers. Takes about 30 seconds. Okay, fine. It takes about a minute. I'm going to go around, cut these guys off. Just enough Get rid of that little spike on the bottom. There we go. I used to hate the idea of doing this, and I don't even really know why, because I also hated when I got poked, but I think it was just I had never done it, so I didn't want to do it. Not that, you know, that's a normal thing with me or anything, but go ahead and get those off, and you're good. Artichoke is ready. So what I'm going to do with the artichoke is I'm going to steam it, and I think that steaming it is actually the best way to cook an artichoke. If you cook it in water, or if you cook it in like a broth or whatever, it pulls out all the flavor of the artichoke. If you steam it or pressure cook it, if you are into those kind of things, it keeps the flavor of the artichoke actually in the artichoke. It's just heat coming out of the water. That's my preferred method of cooking an artichoke. I definitely throw a couple lemons in there. I might throw in actually a little bit of thyme, because the flavor of the thyme will kind of get soaked up by the artichoke. Fantastic method for I'm going to set that over there. I'm not going to bore you with boiling an artichoke, but that's the other part of my dinner. What I am going to bore you with is how to cook this pasta and make our Alfredo sauce. So first things first, set this here. We're going to use the fettuccine roller here. We're just going to take our well-floured sheets right through. There you go. Nice little bowl of fettuccine. And this is the pasta I'm actually going to be cooking with right now, just because it's so much thinner. Dust that with some more flour, roll that around. Do we have the same fridge? That's awesome. Hey, Bull, yeah, this is not Half-Life. Sorry, dude. But if you want to learn how to cook pasta, this is an excellent thing to watch. Bull is one of my video game friends. Very much into virtual reality like me. Very cool. So that would be probably another one portion. We'll cut this little skinny one here. Go. And again, just being very gentle with when we pull this all out. You don't want it to stick together, you don't want it to clump. You do want to go through and make sure that they have actually come apart when they go through the roller. If it's not dry enough, it'll actually stick together a little bit, like this one. Not really much you can do to avoid that other than to just make sure you let them dry out a little bit more the next time. Roll it. Perfect. Flour this guy and see if we can cheat. I don't know that it'll work, but if you're a fellow real estate professional, cheating is unethical, so don't do it. Unless you're cooking, in which case cheating is perfectly fine. Go through the rollers. Yeah, that worked pretty good. Got a couple sticking together, but they'll probably come apart in the water. Toss these guys together. Since they've got flour on them, they will everything kind of separated. Toss the failure in there along with all the rest of them. There's no such thing as failure until you give up. Once you give up, that's when you failed. Very cool. And there goes my handle. Good morning, everybody. Cool, cool, cool. All come apart. Great, great, great. This looks fantastic. So I'm going to make myself an extra large portion of fettuccine here. And again, the Alfredo sauce that we're making has no cream in it. This is a more traditional sauce. I think they used to call it Fettuccine al burro, which basically just means butter sauce. And then you can add Parmesan cheese, and it melts in and makes it a creamy sauce, but you're not specifically adding milk to it or any kind of cream to it. Pull out our trusty induction cooktop here, and we'll get some water boiling. Now, a lot of people say you cannot cook pasta in anything other than super, super, super salted water. The problem is we're going to be using this water to make our sauce. So you don't want to oversalt this, and this is why we salted the noodles. If you oversalt the water, your sauce is going to be super salty considering you're adding Parmesan, and if you don't have unsalted butter, your butter is going to have salt in it as well. I recommend using unsalted if you can, if at all possible. Just make sure that you keep that in mind when you're putting your sauce together so that you're not making it ridiculously salty. Because then all you're going to be able to taste is the salt, and it's not going to be very pleasant. I've got a reverse osmosis filter over here, so I'm getting a little bit of water into my pot, slowly filling it up. That should be enough. And you don't want a super huge amount of water because you want a lot of the starch from the flour in the pasta in the water to thicken the sauce. Get that cooking. Don't need this anymore. While I'm over here, I'll go ahead and get my serving bowl. So this is what we're going to eat our pasta in. This is just going to be kind of staging. Once it's done out of here, we're going to put it here for a second while we build our sauce. And I'm just going to keep playing with the pasta noodles just to make sure they're not sticking together. Very cool. I am definitely multi-streaming this. I know that Twitch isn't working for some reason, and I don't know why. Steam shouldn't be streaming this. I'm not streaming it. Unless you mean stream. Stream. I don't have Steam open, so I'm not streaming this to Steam. Anyway, I am multi-streaming this. For some reason, Twitch isn't working, and I don't know why Twitch isn't working. I tried to troubleshoot that a little bit earlier. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Ioana. Good to see you both on the stream. So yeah, I'm not quite sure why Twitch isn't receiving data. I'm going to have to play with that a little bit later. But YouTube should be streaming this, and Facebook is obviously streaming this as well. So, and then the integral part to any kind of waiting is a good glass of wine. Is it stream? Yeah, Twitch isn't working at all, Bull. On my computer, it doesn't work, and I'm assuming on mobile that means it's not going to work as well. It just says download could not commence or something. I'm going to have to troubleshoot that later. It should be streaming. You should have video and audio on YouTube and Facebook, though. So if you wouldn't mind checking that for me, I would love you. I don't know if you have Facebook, or if we're friends on Facebook. I think we are. Maybe not. So again, here's the pasta that I made where I rolled it out myself. Much thicker, much bigger noodles. So here's a comparison of one of these noodles versus one of the ones that I rolled out with the pasta machine. A lot thinner, a lot more delicate, and not quite as wide, actually about half as wide. So that's kind of the difference that you're getting. By weight, these should be about the same amount of pasta. So it should be 2 servings of pasta. This one's just going to have a much more delicate mouthfeel and a much more delicate presentation. Both of these are going to swell up once you cook them in the water. They absorb a lot of water, they're fresh, there's egg in there, there's flour, so they're actually going to kind of swell up a little bit like dumplings. And they taste super good because they're super fluffy. But it's a lot different than dried pasta, where when you cook the dried pasta, it gets a little bit more plump, but it doesn't actually like grow in size. These actually grow. So this is going to be about, I don't know, maybe another 25% bigger than what it is. And I'm assuming that it's going to be same for these noodles down over here. Noodles, these pasta, pieces of pasta. Don't say noodles. Italians will kill you. Let's see, what do I want? My salt. My salt is under my flour. Very cool. I need butter for our sauce. I use Kerrygold. No plug or no promotion, but I do like their butter. Tastes the best in my opinion. And I'm using unsalted butter because I'm going to have a lot of salt in the water, and there's already some salt in the noodles. I'm going to put a little bit of salt in the water. Maybe about a teaspoon. But I really don't want this to be oversalted. The Parmesan cheese has tons of salt. The pasta has a little bit of salt in it as well. And you can always add salt later to the sauce if it's not salty enough. You're not going to need to put too much salt in that water. What am I keep walking over here for? I don't even know. I think I just don't have anything to do while I'm waiting for the water to boil. What's everyone else having for dinner? I hope some of you are at least making some of this pasta with me. If not, I hope you're going to try it at some point. We've got our Irish butter. Unfurl that. Oh, I know what I came over here for. Finally remembered. I want this to pull some water out once this is done cooking. And I need a butter knife for the butter. Starting to get some steam, not quite boiling yet, so we're waiting on that. You do want a rolling boil. I'm going to go ahead and cut out about good sized pat of butter. I'm not sure that we're going to use all of it. We probably are going to use all of it. But I want to get it kind of ready. The pasta is only going to take 90 seconds to cook. So we're going to put it in, we're going to swirl it around, we're going to count to 30, and then we're basically going to pull it out. I think that's all the butter I will need. Back into das refrigerator. You're rolling, which is perfect. That's exactly what we want. So I'm basically just going to grab my pasta. Make sure that none of it's sticking together. Be very gentle when you're picking it up. And we're just going to roll it on in. Pasta's in. Pasta's in. The water's going to start boiling again. What we're going to do is grab our noodle thingamajig, also known as a strainer, and just kind of give them a swirl. That's great. And now we're going to start timing. 6:49. We're going to keep this going until about 6:50. We're going to turn down the water, and we're going to lift it off anytime it looks like it's going to boil over. Also, blowing on it will keep the bubbles kind of down. So if the bubbles start building, you can just blow on them and they'll just recede. $6.50, so once it hits 6:51, I'm pulling the pasta out, pulling the water out, and then we're going to start building our sauce. I'm actually going to put the butter in the serving bowl because I'm going to be putting the pasta there. Keep an eye on it because, of course, it's going to boil over like that when you don't. Gotta love it when you're doing it live, right? $6.51. Turn the heat to low so it stops the boiling. We're going to pull all of our pasta out onto the dish. See how this like almost doubled in size? So this is actually probably 2 servings. All right, cool. Set that there. We're going to pull out some of this yummy, yummy starchy water. See how nice and cloudy that is? That's exactly what you want. I'm actually going to pour a little bit more in there. Pause this. This is going into a reserved container over here. And what we're going to do is just toss our butter in. Yes, all of it. And we're going to pour in a little bit of water and turn this down to low. You want the butter to melt into the pasta water. And you're going to add enough pasta water. This is basically the level of sauce that you're making. So I've got a 1/4 inch of pasta water in there, which is great because I'm going to have a 1/4 inch of sauce when I'm done. I have a ridiculously small whisk that I'm going to whisk this up with. I'm actually going to do medium-low. And what the pasta water and starch plus the butter are going to do is they're actually going to create an emulsion. So instead of separating like oil and water, the starch is actually going to bind to the fat from the butter and make this a super rich sauce. And again, I'm using unsalted butter. And you'll see that this is a nice, oh, maybe you can't see. I'll get it over there. It's a very homogeneous butter sauce right now. You can actually taste it if you want. Not too much salt, which is great. Let's see if I can get this over to you and show you what it looks like. You can see it's not butter. This is all one sauce. It's not, you know what? Let me come over to the camera again. I'm actually going to remove the camera and bring it over here. There we go. Hey guys, this is what I'm seeing. Pretty cool, huh? Hi. So you'll notice that this is all one homogenized sauce. It's all put together. It's very smooth. And all it is butter and starchy water. It's not separating. There's no like, you know, butter on top of the water or anything floating or anything like that. This is all one very creamy, smooth sauce. Into this, we're actually going to put our pasta. That's going to go straight in. Come on, in there. And what we're going to do with that is now stir it. And what this is doing is coating the pasta with the buttercream sauce. And let me tell you, holding a camera and stirring pasta is no easy feat. And you'll notice that we have just enough sauce in there. So I only added like a 1/4 inch of water in there. And the butter, I've already got some Parmesan cheese, but it is freshly grated. Don't use any of that pre-grated stuff. And I'm just going to sprinkle this in. I'll start with that. We'll just kind of get this going. The Parmesan's going to melt, and the fat from the butter is going to adhere to it, and you're going to get a super creamy, cheesy sauce. And this is pasta. This is the Alfredo. This is straight up Alfredo. No cream necessary. You know what? Let me be smarter than the camera. Check this out. I can move my tripod over here, like so. We do it like this. As soon as I get this screwed into place, go. How's that? That's a great angle. Now we got pasta, we've got the cheese sauce kind of going. Not quite as thick as I'd like. You can see it kind of pooling up down there on the bottom. We're going to keep that going. We're going to add a little bit more Parmesan cheese. We're just going to get this mixed up. The Parmesan is melting into that butter sauce, and you're getting a very, very luscious, creamy Alfredo sauce. And we've just got this cooking on low. Well, medium low. So there is our Fettuccine Alfredo. And take our serving bowl over here. Actually turn off the heat here. And we'll just go ahead and serve into our bowl. Look at how thick that sauce is. It's coating every noodle. Got very little left in the pot. Means for easy cleanup. There we go. Perfect. Now if we wanted to, we could make another serving over there of that thicker pasta. I think I'm just going to stick to this. What I do want is some fresh cracked pepper on top. And why don't we sprinkle it with a little bit more cheese, everybody? Very perfect. If you want, you can garnish this with parsley or anything else. And that's Fettuccine Alfredo. Now what I'm going to go do is make myself a yummy artichoke while I nom on the pasta. So I've got basically pasta for antipasti and artichoke for dinner, if that makes sense. I hope you all enjoyed our time together. Hopefully some of you go and actually try this, because let me tell you, the pasta that this makes is fantastic. Let's check this out. A little bit of a mix. None of it is sticking together. It's all still individual noodles. And dive in, do our little roly. Bunch of this on the fork. The one thing I didn't do was test the sauce before I plated it, but I'm sure it tastes great. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's 1,000 times better than any sauce you'll get from a jar. Oh wow, that is delicious. It could use a little bit more salt, so you know what I'm gonna do? More cheese. That, my friends, is Fettuccine Alfredo, made from scratch. Took just about an hour and a half total time, and that was actually experimenting with a bunch of stuff. So if you have the pasta machine here and you're ready to go, it's gonna take you less than an hour to get this ready. When you have your pasta ready to boil, make sure that all of your other ingredients are set, because as soon as you put the pasta in the water, if it's fresh pasta, it's gonna take 90 seconds before it's cooked. You're gonna wanna get it out and start your sauce immediately. So if you've got a bolognese or something like that, make sure that that's ready on the side, heated, ready to go. Once you're done cooking the pasta, drain the noodles. Reserve a little bit of that starch water because it helps the sauce bind to the pasta. Pour the pasta into a bowl with the pasta water, add the sauce, or if you have the sauce in a container already, just move the noodles straight into the saucepan, swirl it around. Everything will bind together. It'll be so delicious. I've got an artichoke to cook. I hope you all are having a great evening. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Next week, what would we like to cook? Let me know. If you don't have anything off the top of your head right now, send me an email, reply to this live stream at some point in the future, and we will figure something out that will also be fun and delicious and awesome. Have a great weekend. Peace.